here. Still remaining really quite cloudy, quite wet across parts of Scotland through Sunday evening. Outbreaks of heavy rain continuing as we go into the evening period. Turning a little drier across western parts of Northern Ireland, though still some showers around. But it's much of England and Wales that will probably see the driest conditions through Sunday evening. Still one or two isolated showers in places, but plenty of clear spells on offer here. It's across the southeast that's probably best in terms of viewing conditions for seeing the total lunar eclipse through Sunday evening. Any rain that we do see across the very far north continues to push its way northwards into the early hours of Monday morning, generally turning drier for most of us. Still one or two showers feeding in from the west, but with a westerly wind direction and some lighter winds too, feeling much fresher to start on Monday. Temperatures much closer to average. Towns and cities generally in the double figures, but perhaps a little lower in some rural spots. A bright start to the day on Monday for many of us, though. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Still some blustery showers feeding in from the west, but those winds definitely a notch down compared to what we saw on Sunday. And feeling pleasantly warm in that sunshine between those showers. Temperatures are much closer to average for the time of year and feeling much less humid too. We could see highs in the south of 20, 21 degrees and into the mid or high teens further north.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
And with a dynastic touch, George Martin's son, Giles Martin, is involved in all of this.
Yes, so he's the keeper of his father's flame, really, which is very touching.
It's very, very touching. How can it be? I mean, we've been talking about a band here that was playing before we were able to send pictures across the Atlantic. How can a band that is that old cause such excitement today?
It's such a number of elements. They encapsulated so much of the early 20th century music. Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Tim Panally through Paul McCartney's father. He grew up hearing his father playing the piano. He had a big jazz band. They played around Liverpool. So all of that music went into the Beatles' crucible. And I find it so interesting that you know, Decca get ribbed for turning them down. But those early sessions are not showing them at their best. And they say guitar bands are on their way out, but actually it took the Beatles to bring them back and show everybody a completely different scene, a completely different imagination of what guitar music can be. It took the Beatles 3 albums to really get into their stride, because their first 2, let's not forget, were sort of covers in a way. So there's a few of their own songs in there,
but a lot of covers. But
with Hard Day's Night, it's all their own tracks. And what can I say? The energy of them, the invention of them, when you watch Get Back, you see how much craftsmanship they put into constructing a completely unique song. That's the thing about the Beatles. Each song is so unique. There's no replication in any of their output.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show. Recess is well and truly over and politics is back with a bang. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to the Defence Secretary, John Healey, following the dramatic resignation of the Deputy PM, Angela Rayner, and the emergency reshuffle it triggered. Crisis? What crisis? From the Conservatives, I'm going to be joined by Party Chairman Kevin Hollinrake. What's his reaction to a reform conference that saw former Tory heavyweight Nadine Dorries declare that the Conservative Party is dead? Is there any realistic chance of a Tory revival? Could Boris be brought back into the scene? I spoke with Zia Yusuf, Reform UK's new head of policy, at the party conference about their plans for power and whether Nigel Farage's party is truly ready for government. We're going to hear that quite spicy interview. I'll also be joined by Fiyaz Mughal. What does Angela Rayner's resignation mean for the much-maligned Islamophobia definition? Fiyaz represents an anti-extremism movement. And finally, former royal correspondent and author Valentine Low, who I was once in the royal press pack with, would you believe? He's going to join me to discuss his new book on the royal family. And we'll also reflect on the life and legacy of a very lovely woman, the Duchess of Kent, who passed away last week at the age of 92. So, as ever, we've got 90 minutes of punchy politics to come. Do not even think of going anywhere. Well, what a week to be back from my hollybobs. I'm in this hot seat for the duration now as we get into party conference season. We prepare for the budget on November the 26th and everything else in between. And joining me now to go through a great and stellar set of Sunday front pages is the broadcaster and political commentator Tim Montgomery, once a Tory, now in Reform, close to Boris, close to Nigel, close to Nadine. You're the man with all of the secrets as to what's been going on in the last few days. So let's get stuck in.
I have to pay you some money for that introduction,
well,
I think.
You are the perfect man to be reviewing the papers this morning. So the Mail on Sunday is basically quoting Nadine Dorries, saying that what really needs to happen now is we need a Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson dream team to unite the right. Would that have gone down well with Nigel Farage?
I don't think so. And look, I've been all over the shop on this particular issue, Camilla. If you wanted someone with a steady opinion on this issue, you've got the wrong person.
Just an honest opinion will do, Tim, honestly.
When I joined Reform, I thought part of the role I could play, actually, would be to help the Reform Party and the Conservatives come together in some way, because it would be ridiculous if Labour were re-elected at the next election because the Tories and Reform were squabbling and dividing seats.
Yes, heaven forbid for the right.
But it's more complicated than that. So, you know, one of Reform's great opportunities, for example, in the coming year is to, for example, win in Wales.
Yes.
Now, Wales is only going to turn Reform if Reform is seen, as Nigel Farage is seen, as someone who repudiates a lot of what the Conservative Party has done in the past. Lee Anderson, one of the Reform MPs, you know, he's very powerful, actually, in remembering what Toryism did to mining communities.
Yes.
So I understand the interest in a pact on the right, but it's much more complicated in those sort of harder-pressed communities which haven't done well from economic change, and they see in Reform, quite rightly, a different kind of economic agenda from the Tories.
Vancian right-wingers, you know, talking about reindustrialising mining towns in Wales, while at the same time being tough on immigration, keeping taxes low and all the rest of it. What's missing from this story, and maybe you can give us some insight, what does Boris Johnson think about all this? What does Boris Johnson think about Nadine having defected? And what does he think about talk of him defecting to Reform?
Well, look, I don't chat that much to Boris Johnson, so you probably slightly overdid my. But am I allowed
to talk to him more than
am I allowed
most
to say? Am I allowed to say something slightly naughty on a Sunday morning?
Please do. We love naughtiness on a Sunday morning.
Boris Johnson, I do know, has joked about the fact that the idea of a Reform-Tory alliance is a bit like a penis enlargement kit. I'm so sorry, Camilla. You won't have me on this programme again, will you? But he compares it to a penis enlargement kit in the sense that everybody wants one, but they never quite work. And so, I think that is true about the idea of a Tory Reform.
Good idea in theory. In
alliance.
practice, not so much.
But, you know, a lot of people who may be voting Reform will never vote Tory. And a lot of people I know who are Tories, you know, find Reform a little bit too difficult in some of its sort of stronger policies.
Really, because they are so closely aligned on so many different policy areas.
But there are some very big differences, particularly on economic issues as well. And the fact is that the Tories did not deliver on immigration. How many elections did the Tories promise to deliver on immigration, and they didn't? They failed in so many promises. So for many Reform potential voters, they're toxic, the Tories still.
I appreciate that. And some indeed thinking they're dead, including Nadine Dorries. Let's move on to the issue of immigration immigration then because of the reshuffle. So on Monday, Yvette Cooper's doing a brilliant job at the Home Office. She's smashing the gangs. God love her. By Friday, she's out.
Yeah.
She's over to the Foreign Office, and Shabana Mahmood has come in, formerly the Justice Secretary.
Yeah.
Actually, a very successful and impressive woman, to be perfectly
Very
honest.
impressive, yeah.
She is really impressive.
Yeah. Have
She's
you
had quite a
interviewed her?
stellar career. No, I haven't.
No.
Please do come on, Shabana Mahmood, because we'd love to speak to you on GB News. And I'm sure she will in future. Is she going to be able to bring down illegal immigration, legal immigration? Has she got the appetite for it? Question marks over her being pro-Palestinian, yet running the Home Office. Is this right? She once attended an event where she said refugees welcome. She was a co-signatory to a 2020 letter trying to stop that flight of Jamaican convicts. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
She supported the boycott of Israeli goods.
Really?
She's partisan.
That's not good. That's not good.
On the issue of the Middle East.
Well, I had forgotten some of that stuff. But can I come back to the central issue of can they stop the boats that you posed? Was it yesterday we had another 1,000 people crossing the Channel?
In one day?
I think, well, it was certainly over the last week or over the last... 1,000 people. Can we now absolutely lay to rest this idea that the deal that Keir Starmer struck with the French president is going to make any difference at all?
One in, one out. One in... 17 in, one out.
Yeah,
but now he's doing a similar deal with the Germans.
Yeah, but they're small beer. And so what I think is interesting about the front page of the Sunday Times today, and I've heard it, on other news bulletins, is Labour are finally talking about a bonfire of these ridiculous rights that are imposed on us from another age that don't suit our times, that stop us deporting people properly. Because until we have the kind of policy that Nigel Farage proposed a couple of weeks ago, that everybody who comes into Britain is detained and deported, we will not stop the boats.
Although there's an interesting line in the Sunday Times piece saying that Mahmood is open to reforming our relationship with the ECHR.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think she's interesting, because there are some people, it was pretty toxic, actually, on X when I tweeted how impressed I am with the new Home Secretary.
I bet that went down well with some.
Yes, it went down. It was pretty unattractive, actually, some of the tweets I was receiving.
Fair enough.
And they were thinking, a Muslim in charge of the Home Office? There was a lot of that, I'm afraid. Of course, we've had a Muslim in charge of the Home Office before in terms of Sajid Javid, but I think there may be something in having a Muslim Home Secretary who is probably, according to people inside Labour, probably the most right-wing member of the government. She can go to places on rights issues that other people cannot go to.
So it could be quite a shrewd appointment by Starmer.
It might be a really shrewd appointment.
I tell you what is confusing me is why, of all cabinet ministers, the one person who was safe in this reshuffle on Friday was the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, even though there have been more calls for her to go than actually anyone else, bar Rayner, in light of the tax avoidance story. Why is she still there, in your mind, Tim? You're good at analysing the political manoeuvrings of prime ministers.
We all tiptoe around this issue, but, of course, we remember the tears in the House of...
Can't forget them.
Can't forget them. And the markets did wobble that day. And what Labour are absolutely petrified is any repeat of what happened to Liz Truss. And I think Keir Starmer is very worried that if he moves Rachel Reeves, the markets will react badly.
Or react well, perhaps.
Perhaps well.
I mean, this is the other irony. She's pitch-rolling all of these tax rises because borrowing is at a record high. It's the highest level since 1993. Forget 22 billion black holes. Apparently now the black hole in her own budgets is 50 billion. So she's going to have to tax. Actually, if she was moved and somebody more moderate came in who didn't want to tax thin air, the markets might react well.
If someone like Wes Streeting was appointed as Chancellor, I think the markets would probably think that was a good thing. I don't know. But one thing is, I think, Camilla, is to make a mistake. And last year they made a mistake. They basically blighted the British economy by saying there was going to be a budget that raised taxes, and they didn't say what taxes there would be. And so for about 6 months, the whole British economy went into sort of standstill because businesses didn't know what to expect. And they've done it again this year.
12 weeks.
They've done it again this year. And the budget is still, nearly 2 months away, the end of next month.
It's like just before Christmas. It's the 26th of November, so it's 12 weeks away. It's the latest possible. It's the last sitting Wednesday in the calendar before we all break up for Christmas. I tell you what's
so we have another 3 months in which businesses can't plan.
And people are thinking, shall I sell my home? Everything just
It's crazy
stagnates.
economics, crazy.
I tell you what else is interesting. Both the Times and the Telegraph, Sunday papers, are running these stories about how great Darren Jones is. Who's briefing this in? Why have the two brought...
Darren Jones, perhaps?
Well, I'm thinking that. It's like Darren Jones seems to be kind of put up as kind of Starmer's golden boy. And it seems to me as if, talking of pitch rolling, there's the suggestion that he might replace Rachel Reeves when the time comes. Is that your impression of this bloke?
Well, actually, I am quite impressed with him. I've been nice about 2 Labour people on this programme now. I was with a kiss of death
Tim,
for them.
Did you give you some smelling salts? Going on in.
What have you put in this
I don't know.
But no, I think he's made a couple of mistakes, of course. He's the person who said on BBC Question Time that there were lots of women and children on the boats crossing, and then he made a silly remark comparing the nation's finances to pocket money. So he's not an entirely safe pair of hands. But my understanding from people I talked to inside the Treasury is that he was always in top of the detail. He knew what he was doing. And he was able to make that very difficult spending round happen, much more than Rachel Reeves. He was the person that faced down ministers and brought costs under control inside the government. And that was no small achievement.
I just think it's interesting that the seeds are being sown for him to be next Chancellor to soften the blow should Rachel Reeves be moved, because that could be cataclysmic for the Prime Minister. Very finally and very quickly, Kemi Badenoch's written in the Mail on Sunday that because of the Rayner farrago, there's no way on earth Reeves can do anything on stamp duty or property taxes. Do you agree with that, or are they brazen enough to just ignore all that?
I think the public finances are so bad now, Camilla, and they're deteriorating, as we've just been discussing. They're going to have to put up taxes. And
I know, but a property tax, revamping council tax, talking about stamp duty, when Angela Rayner admitted to avoiding paying 40 grand.
Look, it's difficult. You tell me a tax increase that isn't difficult. You know, they're all incredibly problematical. And the trouble is now, Britain is in what, economists call a doom loop, whereby we're not getting enough money in to pay the bills. So you put up taxes to try and get more money in, and those extra taxes depress the economy further, so there's even less money coming in. And somehow we have to get out of this ridiculous socialist plan that we're under at the moment, and we need to become a competitive economy. And a competitive economy doesn't need higher taxes.
Tim Montgomery, nicely put. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. Coming up next, we're going to be speaking to the Defence Secretary, John Healey, about all of the issues we've just discussed and more. Don't go anywhere. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's quite a changeable picture across the Mediterranean over the next couple of days. Plenty of sunny spells on offer, but there is going to be some quite strong winds across parts of the Canaries as we head through Monday afternoon. Parts of Spain and Portugal, parts of Italy seeing plenty of sunny spells, but southern parts of France, parts of Greece and parts of Turkey seeing plenty of heavy showers through Monday afternoon. Quite a lot of sunshine on offer as we go through the rest of the week and feeling pleasantly warm with highs into the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin,
and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're just waiting for the Defence Secretary, John Healey, to be mic'd up to speak to me this morning on the show. Tim Montgomery, you're still with me. To be fair, John Healey is the one person in this government who seems pretty safe. No talk about him having to be moved. Seems to have done a pretty good job.
And we had that £10 billion deal with Norway just announced last weekend, this frigate construction deal. Now, there are costs for investing in defence, but if Britain rebuilds its defence industry, we will have more deals like that with Norway that are actually good for the reindustrialisation of Britain as well. So John Healey is a pretty central part of that as well.
And he seems to have argued quite successfully for more defence spending. Whether or not Rachel Reeves can deliver on it, of course, is another matter. We've already seen him having to dilute some of the promises he made at the beginning of his tenure as the money seems to have run out, which is always difficult, particularly at a time when we're trying to support Ukraine and all the rest of it.
Yeah, a lot of the promises that we've had on defence from this government are sort of like commitments to make sure we hit targets in a few years we'll get away.
All right. John Healey joins me now. Mr Healey, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. The government's reset this week's gone terribly badly wrong. Morning. Angela Rayner has now resigned. I think the public is looking at this government thinking it's in complete chaos and crisis. It is, isn't it?
No, on the contrary, what's happened this week is that Angela Rayner has found she's broken the ministerial code. She's taken the decision to resign. That's the right thing to do, and it's a reflection of the higher standards that Keir Starmer has insisted on in public life, the strength of the independent advisor and the toughening of the ministerial code.
Hang on a minute.
These things always happen in government. The question is how you deal with them, and we've seen clean, swift, fair action taken, although it does mean that we've lost Angela Rayner, and I have to say any government is stronger if Angela Rayner is in it.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to just disagree with you on a couple of points there. Why does a former director of public prosecutions, a top lawyer, need to take legal advice on whether or not a deputy prime minister who's admitted to avoiding tax should or shouldn't be fired? Not only has he got legal training, but he's also, as he says himself, the son of a toolmaker, somebody who wants to lead a government of service. You've got his right-hand woman having admitted to avoiding tax at a time when this government is preparing to put up all of our taxes, including on property. He didn't need to take any advice. Any person watching GB News could have advised him that she needed to go, and he didn't sack her. What does that say about his capacity to lead this government adequately?
So he toughened the rules, he raised the standards, he strengthened the independent advisor, he had that advisor do the job to establish the facts, and that was done within 2 days.
The Telegraph had established
when he had those
the facts.
It led... Well, it's It's important that there was an independent process to do that. It was important it was swift. It was. It was important that Angela Rayner respected the judgment, and she did, and she resigned. And now what Keir Starmer has done now is to use this to reshuffle his cabinet, to say to us all, you've got to go up a gear now in order to demonstrate the delivery that we've done over the last year can be taken further. And so on defence, you'll have seen in the last week the fact that we have won the biggest British warship contract ever. That's pumping £10 billion into the British economy, 4,000 jobs secured for the next 15 years, and you'll see more of that tomorrow when we launch the Defence Industrial Strategy, boosting British jobs, British innovation and British businesses right across the UK.
Tim Montgomery and I have just praised you for that contract. Actually, nobody seems to have any criticism of you in your role. But what I will say is this. The public sees the Prime Minister on Monday tell everybody how great his Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is. We're smashing the gangs. We're stopping the boats. By Friday, she's out of office. Shabana Mahmood has come in. Everyone's been switched around on this ministerial merry-go-round. It doesn't inspire confidence, does it? For the Prime Minister on Monday to say everything's going swimmingly well, I don't really have to reshuffle, and by Friday having teared up the entire contents of his cabinet papers.
Well, on Yvette Cooper, we've seen in this last year some important progress. 35,000 people deported from this country, higher than before, because they've got no right to be here. More than 300 raids on criminal networks by the National Crime Agency. And now, for the first time, illegal immigrants held, detained and ready to return to France because of what Yvette Cooper has been able to negotiate with the French government for the first time. So Shabana Mahmood has a lot more to do, and this will become a whole-of-government effort, not just something for the Home Office. And you're seeing Keir Starmer say, look, military planners are now in alongside the Home Office, in Border Command, and also looking at sites. Sites that are military, sites that are not military, that may allow us to accelerate the closure of these expensive asylum hotels.
OK, do you know how many people crossed the Channel illegally on Saturday?
I heard the number yesterday was about 1,000.
It's 1,096, as confirmed by Mark White, our Home Affairs editor. In what world is that smashing the gangs and stopping the boats? It's just all hollow rhetoric.
No one part of this will solve the problem. It requires action on the gangs, action on the boats, action on processing any claims, action on negotiating agreements to return those who have no right to be here to other countries. We started to do all that. Good progress in the first year, but so much more to do.
But you must admit, John Healey, come on, you're an honest broker here. We've had 23 resets of this government since Keir Starmer took power in various different guises. We've got this reshuffle, a sort of panic reshuffle in desperation. What does it say about the government, that what's been going on? You can't possibly be telling the GB News audience that the first year of Labour has been a success. It's been a succession of U-turns and disasters, hasn't it?
I have to tell you, I'm proud to have been part of what this Labour government has done in its first year. 4 million more NHS appointments, 500,000 more kids now getting free school meals, 3 million low-paid workers with a pay increase because of what we've done with the living wage. I was able to bring in the biggest armed forces pay increase for more than 20 years, and we're putting the biggest increase into defence spending now since the end of the Cold War. And we're doing this both to keep the country more secure, but also to make defence an engine for growth. You will see that. I've announced today the biggest skills defence programme for decades, and you'll see more tomorrow when we announce our plan to make Britain the best place to invest and grow a defence business.
I get it, John Healey. You're on a difficult broadcast round this morning after a disastrous week for the government, and I get the accentuation of the positive. Let's just look at some other figures. YouGov polling from August about Chancellor Rachel Reeves. How many people approve of what she's been doing? 16%, 1/6. Why wasn't she reshuffled out? The budget has been greeted with disdain by economists and businesses alike. We're now set for more tax rises. There's a giant, apparently, according to one think tank, £50 billion black hole in the budget of the Chancellor's making, and yet she's the one person who's safe from the reshuffle? What's going on here?
Rachel Reeves has been the foundation for many of the decisions taken over the last year. She's also been responsible for the stability that's seen the Bank of England cut interest rates 5 times in the last year, the rise in real wages, and as I say, the ability to give the lowest paid, 3 million of them, a double-digit increase in the living wage. These are
1 million more people on benefits without having to work in the last year. Talk of an IMF bailout. How on earth can you say the economy isn't growing and you're telling us it's all going swimmingly economically? Are you living in a parallel universe, John Healey?
People are starting to feel, but not yet convinced, that the cost of living pressures are relieving. They're starting to see action in the economy, and it's actually the case that Britain was the fastest growing G7 economy in the first 6 months of this year. So there is growth back in the economy after a decade of stagnant growth, but it needs more done on economic growth, and defence has got a big part to play, and I'm determined that we do that.
John Healey, well done on defence, well done on that contract. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. We'll be back with Kevin Hollinrake in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
You'll be very familiar with Colin. He's at birthday parties all around Britain.
But he's not what you may think he is. He's not what he seems.
He's a frozen edition. You can see he's melting. It's an ice cream Colin the Caterpillar cake, which has come out in Marks and Spencer's.
I think we'll have to test that.
I think we will. Let's give it a go, shall we?
Test that. So you do the honours there.
Do you want to do it with me? And we can make a wish.
No. You do that. You go work away at that. Well, I talk to you guys because...
Oh, wow.
Claire, there's a story today in the Daily Star about chocolate bars being tuneful. Tell us more.
So, a university professor at Bristol has come up with a design of music commissioned by a couple of chocolate companies. And apparently there is music that they're called the sweetest melody that will enhance the flavour of chocolate, enhance the flavour of eating. And if this actually goes the way that they think it might, then you should be playing music to the...
Does it tell you what type of music you should be playing?
The sweetest, kindest, soulful piece of...
Claire, he just ate your foot. I'll give you another foot. Oh,
no, you're
I've touched
fine.
it.
Absolutely fine.
Norman, pass me a plate.
OK. I would just say that if you go back far enough, the advert that I remember was tunes help you breathe more easily. But I noticed on Claire's story on the in the Star, Chocolate Bar So Tuneful, next to it is thank you very much, is a headline saying, I hate marathons, which is Mo Farah. But apparently he's not talking about Snickers bars, he's talking about running.
Maybe we're all eating too many chocolate bars.
Well, yeah.
I'm not going for a run.
Yeah, because Snickers bars used to be called Marathon.
They did.
Yeah. They did.
But much better name.
That was that.
Right, should we give this a go?
Let's give the one got a piece,
I will say, quite difficult to cut, because obviously it's frozen.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Still more to come on the show. We're going to be hearing from the Conservative chairman, Kevin Hollinrake. Zia Yusuf, the Reform UK's new head of policy, will also join me to discuss the party's plans for power. Fiyaz Mughal will talk to me about Angela Rayner's resignation and what it means for her controversial Islamophobia definition. Plus, Valentine Low will be here to talk all things royal family. Was the late Queen really a Remainer? I have a suspicion that recollections may vary. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Camilla, thank you. Good morning. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB Newsroom. The government is expected to unveil plans to move asylum seekers from hotels into military barracks. The newly appointed Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is reportedly set to announce the policy within weeks. It follows a wave of protests and unrest outside asylum hotels over the summer, dozens of which are now set to be closed. It's reported ministers are also close to agreeing a one-in, one-out returns deal with Germany, having already sealed one with France. Well, the announcement came after more than 1,000 migrants crossed the English Channel yesterday. Officials declared a red day in the Channel as authorities responded to an increased number of small boats making the journey. It followed 10 straight days of no crossings due to bad weather, and it takes the total number of illegal Channel arrivals so far this year to more than 30,000. The Metropolitan Police has condemned the abuse it claims its officers suffered while arresting more than 400 people at a Palestine Action protest. The force says its officers were punched, kicked, spat at and had objects thrown at them during the rally in Westminster. Protesters held banners in support of the group, which has been proscribed under anti-terror laws. Piers Corbyn, the brother of former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, was among those detained. For the first time since the war began, Russia has hit one of Ukraine's government buildings in the capital, Kyiv. The overnight airstrikes have been described as Russia's largest attack since their invasion more than 3 years ago. A baby is among at least 3 people who've been killed after drones also hit residential areas. Around 18 people have been injured, including a pregnant woman who's been taken to hospital. And in the northeast of England, 60,000 runners are preparing to start the Great North Run. It's one of the biggest half marathons in the world. Around 200,000 supporters are expected to line the route from Newcastle through Gateshead and South Tyneside before finishing in South Shields. Waves for the masses start just before 11 o'clock and continue until around midday, with many taking part to raise money for charities. Famous faces include Commonwealth Games champion Ailish McColgan and fitness coach Joe Wicks. Good luck to everyone running, including my mum, my auntie and my cousin. Come on, girls. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you for that, Bethany, and good luck to the Elsey ladies running in that race. Lots still to come on my show, but first, joining me now is Kevin Hollinrake. He's the chairman of the Conservative Party. Lovely to see you this morning, Mr. Hollinrake. Thank you for your time. Let me ask you a question. There's been some criticism that Reform are doing a better job in opposition as the Tories. May I humbly suggest that in the last week, the Telegraph has done a better job in opposition than the Tories in exposing Angela Rayner's tax problems?
Well, if you cast your mind back a week, Camilla, all the headlines all talking about Angela Rayner on the basis that we'd asked for an independent investigation into her conduct and into what was actually happening with her tax affairs. So we've been on this story since May. We've been writing to various different people, including the independent advisor and the people in charge of who's registered on the electoral roll and HMRC. So you've been working on this very hard. And of course, the media play a very important role because that adds pressure, which then led to the investigation, which then led to Angela Rayner having to resign. So we're the only party who was interested in this, only political party. And indeed, we were told by many people, stop picking on Angela Rayner. There's nothing to see here. That didn't prove to be the case.
Having said that, Kemi Badenoch's performance at Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday could have been a lot better, couldn't it? I mean, people were saying she had an open goal. I mean, the goalie's off somewhere having a Lucozade. The goal is there, it is open, and she basically asks half a question about Angela Rayner. She's just not managing to sort of grip the need for her to absolutely hold the government's feet to the flames, is she?
Well, Kemi's been pushing this for months, and indeed the first question
she didn't on Wednesday.
The first question up, she said that the Prime Minister didn't have a backbone. If he did have, he would sack her. So she was very clear on that. It wasn't the only thing she talked about at Prime Minister's questions, because there are many other things going on in this country right now that are not helping British people. You know, the way the economy is, the cost of living, unemployment, business confidence. These are things that people are interested in as well. So I think to use all 6 questions or something, just hammering on Angela Rayner, would have been the wrong thing to do. People have other priorities. Angela Rayner's story was very important. We pushed on it incessantly, and ultimately that's proved to have meant she's had to step down. As I say, many people were telling us to stop, there's nothing to see here.
All right, but, you know, we had questions being asked on Wednesday as to whether Badenoch would go the distance in her role, let alone Angela Rayner. She seems to get less popular as she continues leading. Just 1 in 6 Britons, 16%, have a favourable opinion of her. That's on a par with Rachel Reeves right now, Kevin Hollinrake. This isn't great. You know, you want your leader of the opposition, particularly after a week of government calamity, to be soaring in popularity. She's tanking.
Well, the popularity will improve. Those polls will improve. That's part of my job, and obviously Kemi's job, to cut through and get our message through. What Kemi's decision was that instead of rushing policies out, when she took over last November, she would take the time to make sure those policies were deliverable. So that does take time, and she fully recognised that we have some policies, promises before we did not deliver upon. We made those mistakes. She doesn't want to make those again, so it does take time. But I think you'll see over the next few weeks, so we get to our conference in the early part of October, you'll see that full range of policies, and people will see Kemi for what she is, the strongest, the most courageous and the most boldest person in politics, and that's what we need right now. At the end of the day, the facts of life are conservative. Kemi's a proper conservative.
Are you saying she's more courageous and bold than Farage?
I believe so, because
what evidence is there for
courageous.
that?
The biggest, the most important, the greatest virtue, the greatest of all virtues is courage, because that guarantees all the rest. Yes, I believe she is. She's not willing to simply say what people want to hear. I think Nigel Farage, you know, has his strengths. He's a great performer, but in the past, and I think in the future, he'll simply tell people what they want to hear.
Well, hang on a minute. I mean, on the ECHR, for instance, Farage has said, look, we can't stop the boats until we come out of this thing. So we're going to come out of it. Badenoch said, oh, we need months to decide and we're going to get Lord Wolfson. You've had 14 years to decide whether the treaty's fit for purpose. You know it isn't, because immigration went up under the Tories exponentially, despite promises to the contrary. So what further is there to discuss?
Well, Camilla, you know that back in May, we announced our deportation bill that disapplied the European Convention on Human Rights to matters around immigration. So we've already made that announcement in terms of where it matters on small boats and in terms of other types of deportations. Now, there's some wider context around things like the European Convention on Human Rights. There are other points as well in terms of things like the Refugee Convention we need to look at. What Kemi's decided to do is consult the experts, not just jump to a cheap, easy headline,
but you should
as others do.
I mean, you should know. You were in power for 14 years. Let's just move on from that and just look at things generally. You know, Nadine Dorries has defected to Reform, said the Tories are dead, which isn't exactly a ringing endorsement from a former culture secretary, somebody who was very close to the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Let's put it this way, Mr Hollinrake. No one's defecting to you right now, are they?
Well, you'll see over coming months, as we get a message through, more people join the Conservative cause, because more people will realise, yes, they need to have those strong borders and protect our borders, but also we need an economy that works, where we balance the books. If you look at what all the other parties are promising, they will all bankrupt this country. Tens of billions
Well, some people think that Liz Truss nearly bankrupted the country.
Tens of billions of pounds of unfunded spending promises. Kemi's a completely different kind of leader. She is responsible in the economy, but is strong enough to protect our borders and police our streets. That's what people want. It's not cheap, easy policies for cheap, easy headlines. It is properly thought out stuff that will be deliverable, that will be put into action.
All right, we've got some reports here that you as chairman and others are having to persuade, to beg people to come to party conference. One veteran MP said, I don't remember whips calling before like this. I was actually planning to go, but I think there is a concern that not many people will attend. Apparently, you've been pleading with MPs to go to your conference in Manchester because it threatens to be a bit of a damp squib.
That's a complete nonsense. I don't know where you get the story from. Of course, every year our whips tell us, we'd like you to come to conference. It's important. Our
it's
members
in the
go.
Independent, that story.
Lots of businesses go. We've got great attendance, excellent attendance for members of Parliament and for Conservative Party members and members of the business community, all of whom see Labour's promises were complete nonsense and they are bankrupt in their country and that business conferences dropped through the floor. What they know is that only the Conservative Party would rebuild confidence in our economy and put in place a framework that actually works for businesses, which creates jobs, which creates the economic dynamism we need to see in this economy, because that produces the taxes that pays for everything else.
What do you make of these rumours of there needing to be a Reform and Tory pact, of Boris Johnson being urged to unite with Nigel Farage by Nadine Dorries? There seems to be this growing sort of clamour around this idea that the Tories are now in such big trouble, tanking in the polls, that your survival basically depends on Reform rescuing you.
I mean, a pact with Reform is as likely as a pact with Jeremy Corbyn's government. Look at the spending plans that Reform have. £140 billion a year of annually tax and spending increases, tax cuts or spending increases, including on welfare, including things like the two-child benefit cap, scrapping that. It is just impossible to deliver on the Reform's tax and spending agenda. They know it. They are just saying things people want to hear. That's sort of reality. So there's no way in the world any responsible Conservative government could do with a pact with a party like that.
All right, just on your idea about a mash-up with Jeremy Corbyn, some of your own One Nationers might quite enjoy that, Kevin Hollinrake.
I don't know anybody even back then who would enjoy a pact with Jeremy Corbyn, but certainly under Kemi Badenoch you will not see one now.
I'm pulling your leg about lefty Tories. I'm being slightly harsh. Kevin Hollinrake, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, and good luck with your conference, which I will be attending with bells on, by the way. We're going to all of the conferences, except possibly the Liberal Democrats, but they don't seem to like coming on the show for some reason. I can't think why. Maybe one day we'll get Corbyn on the show. Give him a grilling. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Now, talking about grillings, I did speak to Zia Yusuf from Reform UK at the conference on Friday. Got a little bit heated at one point, and we'll be listening to that next. Don't go anywhere.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dorries, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Well, on Friday, I was able to sit down with Reform UK's new head of policy, Zia Yusuf, and here's what he had to say.
Zia Yusuf, let's first of all have your reaction to the reshuffle. Angela Rayner out, David Lammy in as Deputy Prime Minister. The one person who has been safe in this reshuffle has been the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, of whom you have been particularly critical. Is this a missed opportunity for the Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, Rachel Reeves, the fact that he hasn't sacked Rachel Reeves is testament to the utter paucity of talent available to this Prime Minister. I mean, Rachel Reeves has been the architect of the accelerating decline of the British economy. We're seeing our 30-year bond gilts now at multi-decade highs. Britain pays more for debt now to finance its debt than Greece. If you look at the interest payments alone in our national budget, 1 in every 12 pounds of taxpayer spending is now to pay interest. And what has Rachel Reeves done since she became Chancellor? She's added she's increased national insurance contributions. It's a tax on jobs. And what happened? There were fewer jobs, right? A lot of people have been taken off the payrolls. She's the inheritance tax rate on farmers, obviously the appalling situation in terms of the winter fuel allowance that they told nobody about. And now, you know, if you look at what's being rumoured, well-sourced rumours about the next budget, her latest harebrained idea, taxing people on their primary residences, something that is, hasn't been known for decades. And then also talking about adding national insurance to rent for landlords. All that's going to do is increase rent prices even more. So one of the criticisms of Rachel Reeves has often been she doesn't get second and third order consequences. This is first order consequences of her decision.
So why is he kept her there? Because she is, according to Ipsos, one of the least popular politicians in the country now.
Yeah. Well,
so what's your theory?
Because this Labour government is utterly devoid of talent. And look, if you want evidence for that, you know, I've said this before, you know, I think we will get an earlier general election than 2029, but you better hold on to your hats because we're going to get something worse than Starmer and worse than Reeves. And look what's happened with Angela Rayner. She's been replaced by David Lammy.
Yes.
I mean, they managed to find the only human being in the country less qualified than Angela Rayner to be the deputy prime minister.
David Lammy isn't here to defend himself, and he will say, unlike you, that he is an elected representative, and therefore at least he has constituents, which you don't, which would be a fair point, wouldn't it?
It would be a point, but anyone
He's been voted in.
Go and look at the public utterances of David Lammy for many years. This is a man who insulted President Trump in the most egregious ways, knowing full well there was a meaningful chance to be the next president of the United States. Sure, I'm articulating my opinion.
Right. Are you going to run to be an MP then when the time comes?
I would like to. Yeah.
Could that be 2027 then? What event do you think will precipitate an early general election? We heard this from Nigel Farage in his speech.
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine that Labour would right now be turkeys voting for Christmas. So how do you come up with this? It's 2 years before we thought it would be theory.
Well, we're not saying it will be 2027. We're saying we must be prepared for such an eventuality. It would be wrong to not do that, given how many millions of people in the country are placed so much faith and hopes in us doing so. Here's how such a scenario could occur. Number one, look, of course, the way the British system works is that Starmer would have to call such an early election.
He won't do that.
Well, so here's how it could happen. Number one, more stress in the financial markets. So already our 30-year borrowing costs are reaching multi-decade highs. We haven't yet seen the stress in the short-term credit markets, CDSs, shorter duration gilts. It hasn't yet happened. But I worked in the city during the time of the Greek sovereign debt crisis. When that arrives, it's a bit like bankruptcy. It's very gradually, then all at once. One of the things the markets are looking at is whether Britain is going to obey the fiscal rules. The bond markets do not care, Camilla, whether, British kids get good schooling, whether people are struggling. They just care about being paid. And the clue as to what's coming once Rachel Reeves goes, and I think she is on borrowed time, quite literally, is when she started crying on the front bench, regardless of what anyone's view is on that, you saw a big gap down in British bonds. And the reason for that was they were terrified about what might come after her. And sadly, I think Nigel will be the Prime Minister at some point, but I think we're going to see, I think Rachel Reeves is going to be gone reasonably soon. I think Starmer will go reasonably soon after that. I think the people that come after them inside Labour will be way worse, and the markets, there's a real chance of a real big problem for Britain in the bond market.
Let's talk about reform. You're not ready, are you? You're not ready now for 2027?
Well, we are. The amount of work that has already been done and is in flight is huge. We're working really, really hard. One of the reasons Nigel said that on the stage is because he knows more than anybody that we're going to get one shot at this. The country, the people here at this conference, so much effervescent enthusiasm, despite the appalling state of the country, despite reformers. There's some polling that came out that said 89% of reform voters are extremely pessimistic about the economy over the last couple of years. The word pessimism doesn't come to mind here. It's optimism. Why? Because they have faith that Nigel will get us ready for that. That's the work that we're doing right now.
But you need a load more candidates. So how many more Tories are you going to pick off?
Well, look, I think the first thing to say on that is if you look at what's happened over the last 14 and a half months, we've gone from 14% support in the general election to anywhere between 32 and 35% today, depending on the polls. The majority of that new support has come from people who didn't even vote in the last general election. And if you look at Runcorn and Helsby, where Sarah Pochin brilliantly won that seat, that was a Labour stronghold, not a Tory stronghold. And so, yes, we're going to take probably some people who are Tories. There are some good people there. But we're going to take far, far more people who have never been in politics before. I was on the record yesterday with the Telegraph saying, I think, because Nigel's already said this, in terms of the cabinet, Nigel's first cabinet, if the British people see fit to elect him as Prime Minister, probably about half won't be from the political world. There will be people that we appoint into the Lords who will be people who have achieved great things and achieved excellence in the real world.
But isn't there a contradiction at the heart of the likes of Nadine Dorries, Jake Berry and Andrew Jenkins all being members of Reform now? These were the very people that were in Boris Johnson's government that you have been hypercritical of. If you could blame anyone for squandering a right-leaning majority, then it's Boris Johnson, who presided over record high taxes and record high immigration. So why are you taking on these people?
Well, so number one, you're not going to find any defence of Boris Johnson's record from me.
But Nadine Dorries is like his bestie.
Well, Nadine Dorries was obviously formerly one of Boris's closest allies. What she said on the front page of the Daily Mail this morning, Camilla, the Tory party is dead. The Tory party is dead. And she's also said, to the degree there are people out there still who would say they would vote Tory, and there's a lot fewer than there were, but there are still some, she said, and I quote, "Wake up and smell the coffee. The Tory party is dead." We couldn't agree more with her about that.
Okay. When it comes to your legislative agenda, you've now been put in charge of policy. You're going to have this department for preparing for government. Some of the policies that you're going to enact pretty quickly are going to be quite radical. You're talking about stopping small boats in 2 weeks. That is going to require you to pass some pretty controversial legislation really quickly. You therefore are going to need a super majority, a stonking majority. You can't just scrape through at the next general election. Do you agree? You need big numbers.
Well, I've been saying, I spoke to Chris Hope about 8-10 months ago, and he asked me, how many seats do you think Reform will win at the next election? And I said this not on the basis that it was expected, but this is what we believed was possible. And I said 350 to 400. And he sort of recoiled a bit and said, are you serious? Well, if you look at the latest polls today, and we take nothing for granted, the latest computation of those polls put us close to 400 seats. So yes, we need a serious majority, but it's also important we have a mandate, because Nigel's going to be the most transformative Prime Minister of our lifetimes. unlike this appalling Labour government, they didn't tell anybody about any of what their plans were and then did awfully unpopular things.
Okay.
We are going to tell the British people what we're going to do. We're going to ask them for a mandate, and I think they'll give Nigel that mandate.
But there's already some confusion about how many people you're going to deport, because you're saying 288,000. Nigel's saying 500,000 to 600,000. How many people are you deporting? Give us a figure.
Yeah, so
which is it?
So I've been saying consistently that the 288,000 figure is a function of the fact that we're talking about 24,000 detention beds, right? And so what that means is, so the operational plan that we have put together means that our assumption is, and it works on the basis, that nobody would be detained for more than 30 days. That's how you ramp up to 5 flights a day. So what that would allow us to do is have the ability, therefore, that's why we want to have that much detention capacity. So at peak speed, we would be able to deport 288,000.
Yeah.
When in the real world, and there is precedent for this, President Obama, people don't know this, but a lot of people don't know this, President Obama deported 3 million people.
Yes.
He deported 3. He was America's deporter-in-chief.
No, he detained
when you look
more
at the
in
numbers,
Guantanamo than some of the Republican
and so when you look at the numbers, they aren't just a straight line. So we've got to be realistic, but we're also very ambitious. Okay. We think there's north of 1 million people in the country illegally. We want to have the ability to ramp those deportations to 288,000 every single year. That's why we want 24,000 detention beds.
Quick couple of questions to end with. You're happy to pay the Taliban taxpayers cash?
Camilla, this year, the United Kingdom is going to hand over £151 million of British taxpayers' money. People watching this programme, 151 million quid of their money is going to go to Afghanistan in the form of foreign aid.
Okay.
The first thing we're going to do is say, you know what? I think it's reasonable to say that if British taxpayers are giving you that aid, the least you could do is take back your illegal migrants.
All right. And you mentioned Sarah Runcorn earlier, Sarah Pochin earlier, the MP for Runcorn, I should say. She's brought back this debate over banning the burqa. She's told the Telegraph that it isn't in line with British culture and should be banned. Where are you on this? Because this has previously sparked a bit of a row within Reform, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was a false... I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. My personal opinion, and again, it's not formal foreign policy, I was on the record very quickly about that, saying I would support a ban, it's my personal opinion, a ban on all public face coverings. That would include the burqa. Because, listen, Camilla, in a Western liberal democracy... Human interaction, which is critically important, is facial in no small part.
So do you reckon that's going to be in a future Reform manifesto, banning the burqa?
Don't know yet. We'll have to see. But I agree with her on that. But I would also say this. I would also say it's also going to apply to Antifa thugs that face down our supporters and intimidate them when trying to come to our event. And so many people tell us, and this happened to me too, you're walking down the street and on the pavement, somebody's walking towards you, wearing a face covering. What do? You cross the road. And we live in cities in the UK, there's so much CCTV.
Yeah.
So basically, that surveillance is becoming opt-in. And the very people who you probably would want to be surveilled are opting out of it by wearing these masks. So my personal view is we do need to have a ban on public face coverings, and I agree with Sarah.
All right. Zia Yusuf, thank you very much indeed for joining me at the Reform Conference in Birmingham.
Thanks for having me.
That was Reform UK's Head of Policy, Zia Yusuf. 2 quick observations on that. First of all, the statement that Nigel Farage might have a cabinet made up of half people from the Lords, unelected, is quite controversial. Second of all, what was going on with my makeup there? This is why I have a makeup artist, folks, called Camilla, also called Camilla, in this studio. I do apologise, I look slightly ghost-like there because I'd done my own foundation. Coming up next, Fiyaz Mughal is going to join me to discuss Islamic extremism in the UK. And he's going to have a view on what should happen about that Islamophobia definition. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It was quite a bright and sunny day for many of us yesterday. However, there's a bit of a change on the way today. Outbreaks of heavy rain on offer and also a very windy day to come. Coastal gales are likely, particularly across the west of the country, but almost anywhere seeing some strong winds as we head towards the afternoon. Those outbreaks of heavy, showery rain continue to push their way northwards. I wouldn't even rule out the odd rumble of thunder mixed in here too, but it's definitely across the southeast that will fare best in terms of some drier weather, perhaps some hazy sunshine. But feeling really quite humid here where you do see the sunshine. Highs of 25, 26, perhaps even 27 degrees. And across the whole of the country, temperatures are well above average for the time of year. Still remaining really quite cloudy, quite wet across parts of Scotland through Sunday evening. Outbreaks of heavy rain continuing as we go into the evening period. Turning a little drier across western parts of Northern Ireland, though still some showers around. But it's much of England and Wales that will probably see the driest conditions through Sunday evening. Still one or two isolated showers in places, but plenty of clear spells on offer here. It's across the southeast that's probably best in terms of viewing conditions for seeing the total lunar eclipse through Sunday evening. Any rain that we do see across the very far north continues to push its way northwards into the early hours of Monday morning, generally turning drier for most of us. Still one or two showers feeding in from the west, but with a westerly wind direction and some lighter winds too, feeling much fresher to start on Monday. Temperatures much closer to average. Towns and cities generally in the double figures, but perhaps a little lower in some rural spots. A bright start to the day on Monday for many of us though. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Still some blustery showers feeding in from the west, but those winds definitely a notch down compared to what we saw on Sunday. And feeling pleasantly warm in that sunshine between those showers. Temperatures are much closer to average for the time of year and feeling much less humid too. We could see highs in the south of 20, 21 degrees and into the mid or high teens further north.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Fiyaz Mughal, the head of the anti-extremism campaign Tell Mama, and somebody who is campaigning against a redefinition of Islamophobia. Fiyaz, if I may call you that, lovely to see you this morning. Let's first of all get your reaction to the appointment of Shabana Mahmood as the new Home Secretary. Is that a good appointment by Keir Starmer, do you think?
Well, I'm hearing that it may be a really good appointment on one level, which is supposedly she doesn't like Islamist extremism. So let's wait and see is what I say. Secondly, I think it's really important that the issue around migration and immigration is dealt with. And what, again, we're hearing in news sources is that Shabana is going to take a tougher approach on these areas. And so I think it's a wait-and-see approach, but at least what is coming out from press sources seems to be positive at this moment in those two areas.
Yeah, it's difficult to know what she will do in office in comparison to what she may have said in the past as an MP. I mean, we have got her at a refugee welcome protest. We had her co-signing a 2020 letter trying to stop that flight of Jamaican convicts, if you remember that, Fiyaz. We've had her supporting a boycott of Israeli goods. And in the past, we have had her supporting the APPG, that all-party parliamentary group's definition of Islamophobia as, quotes, forbidding discrimination on the basis of perceived Muslimness. Now, where do you stand on that?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you also, what you've just given me a list of also raises questions in relation to what she has done in the past. Now, coming back to the issue of Muslimness, and anyone who supported the 2018 APPG definition on Islamophobia, in effect, we should take a position which is to scrutinize them intensely. The reality is the issue of Muslimness is so wide in that definition that you can take a coach and horses right through that definition and that word Muslimness. And so anyone who has supported that, we need to scrutinize why they supported that. The reality is that definition could allow anyone to pick up that definition and, for example, use it against Muslims who are questioning their faith, could use it against people who have left Islam and who raise questions around Islam, and also could raise questions around anyone who doesn't like elements, for example, like wearing the niqab. That could be questioned as being potentially Islamophobic. So the 2018 definition was directly allowing for people who are Muslim to raise any kind of query around questions on Islam, and in effect became a de facto blasphemy definition. And so the 2018 definition is deeply problematic, and anyone supporting it needs to be questioned as to why they did that.
Where are we now with the debate around redefining Islamophobia? Because we've had a lot of controversy about the lack of scrutiny of the board that's been doing the decision-making behind closed doors, ministers refusing to say who's on it. We know that this was Angela Rayner's baby, and obviously now she's left government, Fiyaz. So will that have an impact on the discussions? Where are we at?
Well, it looks like some kind of report is going to be produced this month that will go to the Secretary of State in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. So somewhere there will be a report. Whether it will be made public or not, we don't know. I hope with a new Secretary of State that he throws this definition out. There is an opportunity for the Secretary of State to start again, because this definition has caused so much furor out there in parts of our communities. And frankly, this is an opportunity to reset and try to bring people together rather than divide them by bringing in things like definitions. So I'm asking the new Secretary of State to start afresh and to look at this, because it's causing real tensions in our communities. And actually, I think, thank God, Angela Rayner has gone, and there is the opportunity to re-look at where things are.
Let me just have a look at this story in the front of the Sunday Telegraph, Fiyaz. 1 in 5 people is anti-Semitic, study finds. So the number of Britons who are anti-Semitic has gone up from 16% last year to 21%. It was this particular figure that is quite startling. The campaign against anti-Semitism found that 45% of the British public, almost half the population, believes that Israel treats the Palestinians like the Nazis treated the Jews. How much of that has been fuelled by Islamic extremists in this country?
Well, a lot of that has been fueled by Islamist extremism in this country. Islamist extremism has been using the Palestinian issue for the last 20 to 30 years. Now, I'm not saying very clearly, I just want to be clear, I'm not saying anyone who supports the Palestinian cause is doing so because of this kind of propaganda. But certainly Islamist extremism has really got its tentacles into the Palestinian issue and has been promoting a language, pictures, posters, graphics depicting Jews as being Nazis. And there is a direct link for this activity going on for the last 20 to 30 years. So Islamist extremism not only is a fuel and an engine for anti-Semitism, we know that, but it is a direct fuel for tensions in our communities and also for promoting some extremely regressive views, not just towards women's rights, but towards minorities and to other minorities in our countries. And this, let's not also forget, Islamist extremism has led to so many people, thousands of people getting injured and killed in our country. And so this direct threat to our national security continues on, not just at a terrorist level, but actually at a local social cohesion level as well.
Nigel Farage says he wants to prescribe the Muslim Brotherhood. That was mooted by the Conservatives back in 2015 and then abandoned at the last minute. Nobody can quite work out why. Would that help?
Right.
Is the root of Islamist extremism in this country linked to the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, it certainly has one tentacle and one link to it. Yes, the answer is yes, but there are many other potential links. The reality is I welcome a ban on the Muslim Brotherhood. Lots of Muslim majority countries have been saying to the UK, successive UK governments, why have they not taken action against Muslim Brotherhood, individual activists and financial sources in coming into the UK? And so, frankly, it's more than enough time for action to be taken against the Muslim Brotherhood. And I warmly welcome a ban on this shadowy nefarious group that has been promoting tensions, divisions across Europe, but also within the United Kingdom.
Really quick answer to this because we're running out of time, Fiyaz, but the newly elected deputy leader of the Greens, Mohsin Ali, recently posted a photograph of the Union flag and called those flying it racists. As a British Muslim, is it racist to fly the Union flag or the St George's flag, Fiyaz?
Not at all. It is patriotic. Not at all. I mean, I think people should celebrate both these flags, and actually such a simplistic and disgraceful comment like that needs to be condemned. We should be proud of flying the flag. We should be proud of who we are. We should be proud of our history and our heritage.
Fiyaz Mughal, thank you very much, as ever, for joining us on GB News today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, still to come, royal expert Valentine Low, who I used to work with in the Royal Press Pack, is here to discuss his new book. And we're going to be reflecting on the life and legacy of the Duchess of Kent as well, who passed away last week at the age of 92. I think I was the last journalist to ever interview her. That's all coming up. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's quite a changeable picture across the Mediterranean over the next couple of days. Plenty of sunny spells on offer, but there is going to be some quite strong winds across parts of the Canaries as we head through Monday afternoon. Parts of Spain and Portugal, parts of Italy seeing plenty of sunny spells, but southern parts of France, parts of Greece and parts of Turkey seeing plenty of heavy showers through Monday afternoon. Quite a lot of sunshine on offer as we go through the rest of the week and feeling pleasantly warm with highs into the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I'm excited for them. They match each other in ambition, and it gives you faith, amen, that you can have it all, a successful career and start a family. I think it's very romantic. And I love the way that he celebrates her. I think that that's the sweetest thing to watch. I mean, they do celebrate each other, but watching the way Travis celebrates Taylor's wins is really, I mean, she could be an intimidating character. She's this self-made, very intelligent woman.
And they're just such a lovely couple together, aren't they, Kinsey? I mean, this is huge news all over the world. It got millions of likes within minutes, didn't it? But it's huge news stateside because even the president was asked about it. And we've got a clip of that. Let's just have a listen to what he had to say.
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged, and the world wants your reaction, sir.
Well, I wish him a lot of luck.
Oh.
No, I think it's. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great guy, and I think that she's a terrific person. So I wish them a lot of luck.
That's very nice, Kinsey. Very generous towards Taylor Swift because he said previously, I think, that he hates her, hasn't he?
He did say that on Truth Social, so this is an improvement. Yeah, I mean, this is more than a celebrity couple. It's become a cultural milestone. They met through Travis's podcast. He went to her concert and was disappointed that he didn't get to meet her and was complaining about it on his podcast. And they quickly became the most talked about pairing in modern pop culture. She attends his games. NFL ratings have gone through the roof over it. And you're right, it is a national talking point. So, of course, we're excited 2 years after they started dating that they're going to take the next big step and get married.
When is the big day likely to be, Kinsey?
I don't, I think that they might keep this a secret from us.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's a bit of a royal reunion now because joining me is Valentine Low, former royal correspondent of The Times and author of this new book, which I have to point to this camera, Power and the Palace. The subject is the inside story of the monarchy and 10 Downing Street. You and I have spent many a day together behind a rope, haven't we?
Haven't we just? Usually raining, I think.
Usually raining, usually freezing cold with the notebook, trying to extract any information and scoops that we can. This is your second book after, well, on royals. I know you've written books on gardening and things, but second books after the highly successful Courtiers. And there's a couple of very good news lines in this, Val. First of all, the revelation that when she was a young woman, Queen Camilla was groped and fought off her assailant with a high-heeled shoe. Tell us more.
That's right. She was on a train. She's a teenage schoolgirl, pretty young, and she was on a train going to, I think, Paddington, and someone started groping her. We don't know exactly what happened, but she told this to Boris Johnson when he was Mayor of London, and obviously Boris was astonished and said, "What did you do?" And she said, "Well, I did what my mother taught me. I took the shoe off and whacked him in the nuts with the heel." Which is just amazing. But in a way, what I love most about the story, as well as that, which shows great strength and robustness on part of the young Camilla, but when she got to Paddington, she found a man in uniform, reported it, and the bloke was arrested, which shows presence of mind, strength of character, and sort of civic responsibility.
What year was this?
Well, she was a teenager. We don't know precisely how old.
Some point in the 70s or
the 60s, more like 60s. Yeah.
I know. I love the idea of A, finding a copper in close proximity, and B, actually getting them to act on it.
I know. Wonderful.
But it does speak to also. It's like kind of like the royal trooper status. The story reminded me a little bit of Princess Anne in the kidnapping. Not bloody likely, you know,
exactly.
She fought off the man trying to capture her. The other sensational scoop in this, and you and I may have a disagreement about this now, we may, OK, is that you're claiming that the late Queen Elizabeth II was a Remainer. And I'm saying recollections may vary on that. Why? You give me your case for her being a Remainer, and I'll give you my case for her being a Brexiteer.
My case is that during the Brexit referendum, about 3 months before the referendum, she was talking to a minister and she said, "I don't think we should leave the EU." And when they spoke about it further, she said, "Better the devil you know." So I'm saying that she was a reluctant Remainer. I'm not saying she was a flag-waving Remainer.
No.
I think she had criticisms of the EU. I think she found the bureaucracy exasperating. But it's not just. I mean, that obviously is the strongest evidence we have that she was a Remainer.
Yes.
There are other things. You know, I spoke to someone who knew the Queen well and said it was kind of just part of her worldview that she thought the EU represented cooperation between nations after the war.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, there's completely, like, the theory stacks up in the sense of she observed her father, George VI, very close relationship with Winston Churchill, who was one of the architects of sort of peace in Europe after the Second World War. She was a fluent French speaker, so she was a bit of an Anglophile, a Europhile in that regard. We had that famous episode of her wearing the blue hat with the yellow stars, and was it on purpose to show support for the EU, or was it just her dresser Angela Kelly having some fun? Having said that, we did have the now disputed and indeed legal report of Michael Gove revealing that she had expressed Brexit sentiments at a dinner. And I was always told by sources close to the royals that both she and the Duke of Edinburgh were very Brexity, but that perhaps the King, then Prince Charles, and his son Prince William were quite Remainerish.
I think these sources saying the Queen was pretty Brexity are reflecting her scepticism about the EU, which I'm absolutely not denying. I think she was pretty sceptical about a lot of the EU. And, you know, that quote in the famous Sun article of 2016 where she said, "I don't understand the European Union," I'm sure that's true. I don't dispute that for 1 second. But I think when it came to the push, should we get out? I think she didn't want the tumult of change.
Well, she was a conflict avoider, and she didn't like change, and she had a lot of continuity in her own life about how she behaved, and handbags, haircuts and all the rest of it. Having said that, her beloved Commonwealth, she felt had been pushed on the back burner by our relationship with the EU, and would have loved the idea of us kind of reconnecting with the likes of India, New Zealand, Australia, Canada.
Yes, she certainly would, but I think not at the cost of blowing up our relationships with Europe.
OK, fair enough. Let's move on to talk about the Duchess of Kent. Now, I know she doesn't necessarily feature in this book, but it's worth mentioning her and her legacy. She passed away on Friday, or at least it was announced that she had passed away on Friday at the age of 92, the oldest member of the royal family following the death of the late Queen. I mean, I did quite a lot of work on her in recent years, and I interviewed her a few years ago, and she was quite a complex figure, really. She suffered from mental health problems after she lost a baby. She converted to Catholicism. But what's interesting in relation to perhaps Megxit, which you've written about extensively, is she did this thing of saying, I don't want to be a royal anymore. I want to go and have a much more background role. And then she ends up teaching music at a school in Hull where no one even knows she's royal.
I know, it's fascinating. And, of course, you couldn't get away with that now because social media, people with phones, she would have been rumbled a long time earlier. But I think it shows why the whole Megxit thing was such a tragedy, because she showed how you could get out of the whole royal world seamlessly, easily, peacefully, and go and do something else. And, you know, she took care to ask the Queen if she could do this, and the Queen said yes, and quietly went and did it, pursued her passion. And it just shows that, you know, Harry and Meghan, if they'd pursued their aims in a different way, they could have achieved what they wanted, but, you know, amicably.
Yes, and we hear that the King is going to attend her funeral, which will be a Catholic mass. First time a monarch's going to do that in 400 years or something. But again, the late Queen completely supported her conversion, purely out of respect, one woman of God to another, but that's the direction that she wanted to go in. But she didn't have her HRH status. Again, similarities with the whole Meghan and Harry wanting to do things differently.
And of course, it was a law passed by Parliament, but I think it was done with the agreement of the Queen. When the Succession to the Crown Act came in, that allowed members of the royal family to marry Catholics.
Yes. And maybe that was following a discussion with the Duchess of Kent. Perhaps we don't know. Perhaps we don't know. Right, we've talked about Megxit, Harry and Meghan. You famously broke the story of the bullying dossier that was handed to palace authorities. Jason Knauf, who had previously worked for both the Sussexes and the Cambridges, as they were then known, William and Kate, flagged Meghan's bad behaviour. It's disputed by the couple, and the rest is very much history, post-Oprah and Netflix. We now have Harry coming to the UK this week.
Yeah.
He's going to attend the Well Child Awards and do a couple of other jobs. We've got a story in the Sunday Times, your old sister paper by somebody else we know very well from the Royal Beat, Roya Nickar, suggesting Harry's hope is still to bring his family home to Britain and to reunite with the King. What's your view on all this?
Well, I think it's fascinating. What's interesting is the things the article doesn't say is that it says he would like to come here more often and he would like to bring his family. It doesn't say what Meghan wants.
No.
I think Meghan might have a slightly different view. Interesting, the article quotes a friend of Harry saying he intends to have fun in Britain this week. I don't think
he's not having fun in Montecito, Val.
Well, no, I think the contrast is more. I don't think he's had fun in Britain for a very long time.
No. I mean, it's interesting to see, Meghan has not visited the UK since September 2022. But this week, you know, the diary's quite full. We're back into kind of regular royal engagements. Is the King going to carve out any time for Harry, do you think, Val? What's your suspicion?
I don't know. The article sort of slightly dials down hopes on that.
Yes.
I have thought probably, I can't say I've got great inside information, but my gut instinct is, look, Harry wants it. Charles would love to make family relations better. So I think, you know...
William, not so much.
William, not so much. But the other interesting thing about the article is that it quotes a friend of Harry saying that vis-a-vis this so-called peace summit, which wasn't a peace summit a few weeks ago, which seemed to be about deconflicting diaries, this friend says, this source rather, says that Harry is no longer a member of the institution, so doesn't see a need to deconflict his diary with the institution.
Well, there you are then. We need to leave it there, Valentine Low. Your book, Power in the Palace, is out now. I've got to have a quick word with Michael Portillo to find out what's on your show, Michael, at 11 o'clock.
Lover. Turning to the North Sea, the question will be to drill, baby, drill, or not to drill, baby, drill. That is the question. And we'll be talking to Steve Shaw, a celebrity photographer, about the glitz and glamour of Hollywood.
Oh, we love the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Honestly, don't we? Lovely to see you again, Michael, after our holidays. Thank you to Valentine, as I say, because his book is out now. I'm back, as ever, next week at 9:30 for more political grillings. What's happening next? I think you're getting a little shot of the weather. Clue, it's going to rain now. We're into autumn. Summer's over, but we have got the most exciting political period ahead. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, today we will see bands of rain work their way across the country, but not for everyone. We will see some dry and brighter weather out towards the east for most of the day. The rain is all courtesy of this area of low pressure, which is not going to go very far over the next couple of days, really keeping us in the unsettled regime. So we can see the rain out towards the west. Some of this rain will be quite heavy, potentially thundery in places, but all the time out towards the east we hang on to the drier and brighter weather, especially for East Anglia and the southeast of England. And in the sunshine, it will feel very warm. We could see highs potentially up to 26 or 27 degrees. Up towards the north, however, it'll be quite windy. You could see some gales at times, especially across the coast.